Welcome, everyone, to a special edition of Bayou Bets here on Bet.NOLA.com. I'm Zach Ewing. To my left, Jim Derry. Kenny Mayne, you may know him from his ESPN SportsCenter fame, now a Caesars Sportsbook ambassador. And on the end, of course, Spencer the Guru. We are pleased to be here at the Caesars Sportsbook, the brand new Caesars Sportsbook at Harrah's, New Orleans. Boys, it is a beautiful space.
This place is crazy. I mean, they've done a really beautiful job with it. I haven't been in a few months, and so to see what we have here is just, Kenny, I mean, this place is just insane.
Yeah, I would say it even if I weren't getting paid to say it. It's really cool. Like, I was here not long ago when it was kind of like under construction, and they turned it out really nice. I mean, it's fun. You can see all the people betting, having a good time. Got a million TV screens. I made my one bet. I'm down on the Seattle Storm to win the WNBA championship at 4-1.
This is a WNBA playoff preview, if you didn't know.
That's right.
We may talk a little college football, a little LSU, Florida State.
Mostly WNBA.
Yeah, but mostly WNBA. Spencer, have you placed your first bet at the new book yet?
Oh, not yet, Zach. I'm going to have to soon, though, because, man, looking back at it there, it's amazing what they got going on here. It's been a lot of fun. When I walked in, I was like, man, this is the real deal. Time to get in on the action.
The inspiration for this book was Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, by the way. So it's not quite as big, but I think they hit the nail on the head.
Well, we were just there a few months ago, so it really is. I've been close.
I've been there like 19 times in the last year. So
how bad?
I left ESPN end of May of 2021, signed up with Caesars a couple months later, and it's been a blast. Like, I'm working with the Mannings, Halle Berry. If they want me to go to Europe and work with her directly, a separate commercial, I'm fine with that for the good of the company. Trey Wingo's involved, JB Smoove. We've had a blast. And it's funny because the first place I went when I played football at UNLV a long time ago, didn't play very much, but my recruiting trip, the very first place, Caesars Palace. I would later be an usher at prize fights at Caesars Palace.
Wow.
So I've had a long association, and now I continue it.
If they pick you to do that and you need a wingman, I'm available. I'm just letting you know.
Who is the funniest Caesars ambassador? I mean, you've got to be up there. Peyton is low-key funny. I know Cooper has this reputation of being hilarious. And then you got JB Smoove. I mean, it's a good group.
Oh, I mean, all of them are good. They all have their unique roles. JB just makes you laugh watching him do anything. In fact, one of the little bits that I'm going to come out with shortly to kind of be a companion to the football, advertising campaign. We watched JB do a photo shoot, and he just makes you laugh, just his body language. He's just a funny guy. He's like the smartass of the family. Cooper comes in, he's an assassin. Eli's Eli. And then who expected Archie to come with the goods on like the last thing we shot? He had the best line of the bit.
Yeah, we were there when you guys were shooting that, and it takes like 10 hours to shoot those 30-second commercials.
Well, mine only take 30 seconds. I work more efficiently than others. But I'm basically doing support material for the greater good of Caesars, for their campaign. Trey Wingo and I got to work together a couple times. Every time I do something, it's like a little mini vacation, but it counts as work. So.
Well, we really enjoyed Cartoon Kenny.
Oh, I'm still doing the cartoons.
Cartoon Kenny was fantastic.
We just taped another one. So what happened was, when we first started, or when I first started, it was a little bit like, all right, now what? Because they were just like, one of the guys in charge says we were kind of like building the airplane while we were flying at the same time. And it's just evolved into different things. But one of them was like, why don't we do a cartoon version of me? And I got a good friend named John Moss, who's the son of Randy Moss, the horse race Randy Moss. And he's done a great job putting them together. Caesars got behind it. So we've done a little of everything, in person. I worked at Bobby Flay's restaurant as one of our sketches. I was the fishmonger. Yeah. So I've had a blast doing it, and it's fun to come back to New Orleans. I had the best, what do they call them? Char-grilled oysters.
Oh, yeah.
I had the raw oysters, and I saw the guy next to me with the char-grilled. I was like, give me what he has. That looks better than raw, and it was.
Yeah.
Well, you can't beat butter and cheese on anything.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
So, Kenny, you mentioned playing football at UNLV. I mean, you couldn't have imagined having this job and sports betting being this prevalent in America even 10 years ago. I mean,
no. There was a good long time at ESPN where we weren't allowed to mention that gambling occurred. Even fantasy football, it was like, for fun, you know. Meanwhile, ESPN's running the biggest gambling website in the world, which was the fantasy football, which everybody ran their pools through, or many people did. But you know what? It's like people love the action. They love American football. They're betting. Grandmas are betting. Everybody's betting. We've just kind of made it more convenient, and it can be taxed, and the local authorities and the local, you know, the states can make money off it too. So it's kind of like what we were already doing. Now we're doing it legally and with fancy sports books like this.
It's interesting you talk about that because you couldn't even mention a line during any broadcast, during whether it be SportsCenter or during a live game. And now it's plastered all over everything before every game, and
the game,
they talk about
as soon as the game ends, one of the first things we typically would do was, and now the line on the next game, you know, I mean, I would say Scott Van Pelt gets a lot of credit for kind of breaking those barriers.
Yeah.
Because his whole show essentially was a bunch of guys who like to bet on sports and cover the real sports, right? You can do both at once, and it's what we do in America. Like, we love betting on football. It's just a fact.
Well, and we talk about even if you're not betting on the sport, hey, what do you think about the game? What do you think about LSU Florida State this weekend? Who's going to win? And that's the natural conversation anyway. So we're just continuing that.
If you're asking that, I would take the home team just because it's the home. I mean, it's a good game, period. They're at home. It's the opener. It's hard to root against, or bet against, I should say. There's a difference between rooting and betting.
That's right. There is. Sometimes you do one on one side and one on the other side, just so your head and your heart are in different directions.
It's funny you mentioned that because my good friend at ESPN, we play golf all the time. He said one of our producers named John Deaver, he said a really funny bit would be you standing in line, and there's a guy for whatever team hyping his team, and then he goes to the window and he bets the other way because you should not bet with your heart. I mean, we all fall victim to that. I'm a Seahawks fan. I'm a Seattle Storm fan, as mentioned, Mariners fan, and sometimes that clouds your judgment.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sometimes you kind of hedge against what the heart wants by betting the other way and say, well, at least I'll win some money if they lose, right? Spencer, you're from Louisiana, so you know people around here do whatever the hell they want. Now it's just legal for them to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially with like LSU tomorrow. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of crazy bets on the Tigers, and that fired up for them, a season opener. And I'm actually feeling LSU tomorrow. I don't know about you, Kenny, but I'm thinking LSU being that it's only an hour away. It's a neutral site, but it's kind of like a home game for them. I'm thinking they come out strong.
They're going to have the crowd, but Florida State travels really well. I've seen these jerseys all
a lot of them here, yeah.
You can always tell in the days leading up to a game how did that, right? You see them about at the restaurants, and there's a lot of people here. The LSU people don't have to show up yet. They're already here.
Yeah, they are probably on their way tonight or tomorrow. There's a lot of Florida State fans, though. We got a comment from TJ, says the biggest upset of the day. Just put $750 on Oregon. I assume that's the money line. Let's get into the action a little bit while we root. I'm rooting for points in Michigan, Colorado State, and I'm rooting for App State to cover.
I have a bad history with Oregon. I played at Oregon my junior year, and on the last play of the game, I broke my ankle, fracture dislocation. So my good friend Neil Everett, Oregon guy, always hyping Oregon. And I'm like, yeah, Oregon broke my leg, like every time. So, but the good news is I wasn't going to go here, but why not? I have a foundation now called Run Freely, runfreely.org. And we help veterans who have ankles as bad as mine or worse. And you put this device on and you can do everything you used to be able to do. It doesn't fix anything, but it lets you do stuff you want to do. Sometimes it's nothing more than I get to go to the park with my child. I've had so many amazing responses from these veterans whose lives have been changed. So if you win money today or any day, consider helping a veteran get pain-free.
So TJ, you got to tell us what that pays out. I can't do the math right now, but $750 on that money line. The line is 16.5.
Oh, that's got to pay.
Yeah, it's going to pay. Georgia minus 16.5. What do we think about Georgia, guys? Obviously lost a ton of talent off of that national championship team a year ago, but also brings in a 5-star recruiting class every single season.
Well, and I mean, they're still the class of the SEC East. So what that means in the long run, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, you got to look and think that Tennessee's really the only team that's going to give them a run for their money on that side of the SEC. So they have a better than 50-50 shot at making it to the SEC championship, which means likely playoff if you can beat Alabama, and maybe you don't even have to beat Alabama to get there. So I think Georgia is still one of the top 2 teams in the SEC, and frankly, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country.
Well, all the good teams every time repopulate with, like you said, more 5-star recruits.
Exactly.
Alabama's always going to be there. There's a couple teams that'll show up out of nowhere, but you can
Except LSU.
you typically can count on those teams that already did okay, because who doesn't want to go to a team that's already pretty good?
Spencer, we'll talk about another game too, Notre Dame, Ohio State, where the line is 16 points. These are like top 10, well, in Notre Dame, Ohio State, it's a top 5 matchup. That is a ton of points, but people don't seem to mind laying it with the Buckeyes.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting for sure. I'm thinking Notre Dame might be able to pull off a backdoor cover there, because I'm thinking Ohio State, they'll probably get off to a lead, but I don't think Notre Dame's just going to quit. They're going to be fired up. I like the new head coach they got over there, so I'm thinking that game could be a little closer than people are thinking.
Zach, that line has dropped as well. It was at 17. There
17 and a half earlier, yeah.
There have been only 4 matchups between the top 5 teams where the spread has been as great as 17. The last time it happened, it was Notre Dame against Alabama in a playoff game, and it was 31-14. Even I can do the math and figure out that 17, so they were right on the nose.
Can I throw in something pretty random? Because we mentioned Oregon earlier.
That's what we do here. Yeah, go ahead.
So my friend now, Devin Allen, one of the best high hurdlers in the world, right? He tried out and is on the practice squad for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a receiver at Oregon, got hurt, moved over to track, stayed in track for a couple of Olympics and Worlds. He's the one who got DQ'd for the fast start. Remember the World?
He was too fast.
He didn't. Yeah, he didn't beat the gun.
Yeah.
He was too fast after the gun, which is the dumbest rule.
Too good. Yeah.
I don't even get it. So he made the practice squad as a wide receiver. He caught a touchdown in preseason. He was good on special teams. Free shout out, Devin Allen.
I love that. Darren says you'll see LSU show up big time tomorrow. Ask Clemson how that crowd ratio worked. That's true. LSU's always played well here.
Little difference.
Jason's question, can you bet horses at the new sportsbook? I do not believe the horse book is set up yet. Frank says he's here. Come by and say hello, Frank. And TJ says, again, drop that bag on Oregon, the Ducks.
Hammering the Oregon Ducks.
I don't know,
That's
man.
just crazy.
I'm so old, I saw Dan Fouts play for the Oregon Ducks. I saw Bobby Moore, who would later become Ahmad Rashad.
Okay.
So, like, that's how old I am. I'm watching the Pac-8, okay?
How many uniform combinations has Oregon gone through since
man.
then?
They have so much money, they could just press out a new one every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Phil Knight just presses
Got
a
that
button, and
Nike
then, that's what happens.
I wouldn't want to have to be the person that has to change their helmets every week. I mean, that's got to be,
These Bayou Bets helmets, the stickers are hard to put on those suckers, I got to tell you.
You're going to put that on at the end of the show.
They're
right?
brand new. No, unfortunately, it's a display helmet and it doesn't go on. Otherwise, I was going to make Spencer put it on.
Do you know that we have a potential audience of 8 billion people right now? We're on the internet.
Potentially, yes.
8 billion people.
That'll make me freeze. Though.
Right now, it's a smaller fraction of that, but I like that. You are watching Bayou Bets on bet.NOLA.com. Kenny Mayne from Caesars Sportsbook is here with us, along with our crew, myself, Zach Ewing, Jim Derry, Spencer the Guru on the end. We'll be joined later at about 1:30 by Rod Walker. We're here for the whole hour with you at the new Caesars Sportsbook. As you can see, you can barely even see behind us. Just a fantastic atmosphere.
They drew a good crowd.
Yeah. Next time, can we do this in the poker room? We can do it in the poker room.
Or the man cave, which is pretty quiet right now. They didn't rent it out. They have a separate room if you want to rent like 10 of your 12 of your friends watch the Super Bowl. I don't know what it's going for, but that looks like a good spot.
It'll probably cost what it costs for you to go to Quebec. I'm just guessing.
Only if Halle Berry is there.
Let me go get a loan.
Yeah. Another game I want to talk about, guys, before we really get into Florida State LSU. It's at 2:30. Cincinnati is at Arkansas. Cincinnati hasn't lost a road game in 3 seasons.
I did not know that.
But they're 6.5-point dogs in favor.
I'm taking Cincinnati in that case.
You got to go run to the kiosk here real quick.
But they don't have Desmond Ritter anymore.
They do not have Desmond Ritter. They don't have Sauce Gardner.
As a player, I like getting good action, right? Like the favorable payoff. Unless there's somebody just prohibitively better and there's just no way they're going to lose. But we see it happen, right? That's why they play the game.
That's right.
You don't always win because you're the favorite.
I will tell you a little thing.
Value.
I like when a team is -6.5. I usually like the other side because that 6.5, they're trying to beg. Oh well, if Arkansas wins by a touchdown, they're kind of begging you to take Arkansas there. And I feed off of those things.
There is another game that's 6.5. My pick of the day is San Diego State -6.5 against Arizona. Where Arizona won one game last year over an FCS team. San Diego State's a good team.
That wasn't our daily best bet today.
It's in San Diego.
Let's have a bonus San Diego State mention, as long as you said it's okay.
All right.
My good friend, Jimmy Sandusky, probably not watching. I didn't tell him I was on.
1 in 8 billion shot.
No, he just got through heart surgery. He's doing great. He's back on his feet. He was All-America at JC, Walla Walla Community College, All-America at UNLV, All-America at San Diego State, because he transferred after Coach Knapp left.
Yeah.
I think he's the only one who's ever done that.
Well, you know, the most famous San Diego State athlete is from New Orleans.
Who's that?
Marshall Faulk.
Oh, that's right.
He went to Carver High School here, and LSU wanted to use him bring him in as a defensive back.
Oh, no.
That didn't work out very well.
He did okay the other way.
Yeah, he was fine.
I have to say, Kenny, Walla Walla, Washington to Vegas might be the biggest culture shock of any place in
That's
maybe
a fact.
somewhere in Nebraska.
Well,
but
previous to that, he was from Othello, Washington, north of Wenatchee, where I went to JC before UNLV. So, and then my senior year, Sam King played ahead of me. He led the nation in passing. A guy named Randall Cunningham.
He was all right.
Yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame. It's crazy that he's not.
you mentioned Sandusky, and that reminds me actually of Frank Gifford. My previous job in Bakersfield, he won the Junior Rose Bowl at Bakersfield Junior College, then won the real Rose Bowl at USC. So similar story.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So we are working our way through the 11 a.m. games. A couple of scores for you live here. Florida State
just happened?
Florida State's in the house. Florida State is in the house.
And LSU.
I thought somebody pulled a fire alarm for a second.
I'm sure they will, but man, this is.
But everybody's
I'm
getting
impressed by
along.
the Seminoles.
They're all getting along. They're fine.
Yeah, so far so good. Yeah, just wait till tomorrow though. It might get a little wild tomorrow.
But here we go. So North Carolina is up 35-21 on App State. That was 21-7 App State midway through the second quarter. So a 28-0 run for Mac
I'm glad I
Brown's
didn't
boys.
get my halftime bet in because I was going to go bet on App State and I completely forgot.
Better to do it now.
Are you guys more college football fans than NFL?
It depends on the day of the week.
Not me.
Yeah.
I'm more NFL.
I'm way more.
Yes.
Well, let's talk some
And nothing
NFL.
against college. I mean, it's obviously
Right.
competitive and great, but you know why I'm more NFL? Because the players are better.
They are
Okay,
They are better.
Said that.
Well, just a little bit.
What do you think about this, Kenny? Jameis Winston, Saints quarterback, giving the pregame speech for Florida State tomorrow night.
Oh wow, I like that.
He's trying to get into Mark Ingram territory. You know, there are a section of Saints fans that don't like Mark Ingram solely because he went to Alabama.
Okay.
So now, Jameis Winston is trying to get into that category, I guess. And
Maybe it depends on who wins the game tomorrow.
Is it too late? Have you guys done your fantasy drafts?
we've done
Still
a
have
couple
some to
of
go.
One of your
Yeah, we still
9
got our
fantasy
listener
leagues?
lot.
Yeah.
My
Still
main
good,
draft
yeah.
is Monday.
Okay, because I think Russell Wilson is going to throw 45
I
touchdowns.
just traded him yesterday. My keeper. league.
45
Denver's going to let Russell drop back and throw like an NFL quarterback,
Okay.
as
I like
opposed to everything off play action and rolling and all that.
Spencer is a guru because of his fantasy football knowledge. What's your reaction to that, Spencer?
Free shout out, Greater Seattle Football League, the GSFL. I've been a member since 1984.
That's long as
That's
my
a long
league.
time ago,
That is.
right out of college.
Keeping
right?
stats on hand by
Oh
hand.
my
yeah.
God!
Well,
You had
the
to look
paper,
at
yeah.
USA Today was the record.
That's right.
The what was it called? The show of record, right? And then Mark Beach, the commissioner, had a fax machine. One of the rare people to own one back in those days. You did everything by telephone. There was no cell phones. You met at the pancake place to make trades. We continue to only allow points for actual scoring. There's no
That's how
100-yard
we
rusher.
started.
There's no 300-yard passer. You don't get points in football for that. You get
This-
points if you
Yeah,
score.
it's
This
touchdown.
guy is the biggest
Touchdown.
traditionalist in the world, and we'll love that.
Our league started in 1989, and for the first 5 years of our league, part of your dues were stamps. So I could put the report together and mail it out
There
to
you go.
you. Mail it out every Monday night. I would finish it up, working on the copy desk. get all the stats in. That's one advantage I had, is the stats would come in. Monday night game was over. I did up the report, and I went 1 a.m., well, Tuesday morning, drop all the reports in the mailbox.
And for the supplemental draft, the commissioner would call, there was no party, you couldn't get everybody together. You'd call the next guy. You had 1 minute. He doesn't answer, move the next guy.
That's right.
So I miss the simplicity, but I also really value how that league stayed true to real football, that points are points, yardage doesn't count for points.
So it's still that way. It's still a basic league. Nothing but touchdowns.
If you have Jerry Rice and Joe Montana, that's a 12-point play.
Yeah.
You were a winner, yeah. Spencer is more newfangled, but I want to get back to your Russell Wilson point.
Hold on real quick. I bet you Kenny Mayne wouldn't play in a league that has decimal points. We talked about this the other day, and they were giving me grief because I didn't want to play in my son's league because it had decimal points. That bothers me. Football's not a game where
2.5.
102.67 to,
No, I got no problem with the people who do it the modern way. I mean, it's fun. There's more to keep track of, but I still like the simplicity and sort of the pureness of the old way.
With you.
Spencer, you got to be itching to respond over there.
Yeah, I think I'm more on the. I like the decimal points and the PPR side of things, but I mean, if you're still doing it the old way, then I mean.
You like 150
but I do like the new way. I'll admit, because it's more to keep track of. Or like with the touchdowns, it's a little more like from a weekly basis. The touchdowns can kind of vary. Where with the the PPR and the yards, it's more kind of you can kind of have your set lineup. But back to Russell Wilson to address Russ, I do think Russ is going to improve this year with Denver, being that they've got improved, he's going to have an improved supporting cast, a better offensive line. He won't have to constantly be running for his life like he was in Seattle. And I think most importantly, I think you touched on it, Kenny, the coaching staff that'll actually let him drop back and pass, and let Russ cook. Well, I'm thinking he'll do better. I'm not quite as high on him as some, though, because they do run the ball well over there with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. So I'm thinking
that helps his throwing, though. Everybody comes up.
He's got the
offense itself will be really good because defenses aren't going to know what to do because the running game and Russ's arm's going to be lethal. So I'm thinking he'll be a top 10. I don't think he'll quite be top 5, but I do think he finishes as a top 10 and does much better than last season.
I like how the change has been made where everybody has so much info now. The old days, you'd go buy Street and Smith's at 7-Eleven, and you'd study it for 2 days or whatever.
You had to dig.
Now you just show up with your laptop and you're punching buttons and all the info.
Well, whoever shows up at the draft with any kind of magazine now, like when you play poker and you know who the fish is.
That's the fish.
If you don't know the fish within 15 minutes, you're the fish. Whoever shows up with the magazine now, that's the fish.
Or like my Uncle Gordy, God bless. He would, he'd draft a guy who just broke his femur.
Right.
Or who
Did you tell him?
Retired last year. I got Cliff Branch again.
My favorite of the guys, and it's the 8th round, and is Jonathan Taylor drafted? Has somebody taken him?
Right.
And you're like, yeah, somebody took him an hour ago, buddy.
Oh man, scratch off your list. They like these person, right? They have the list, and then they just say, oh, he's still there. He must still be there. They had that happen in one of my leagues this year, one of my in-person drafts. Someone tried to draft Mark Andrews in the 15th round.
Well, yeah,
that's like, bro, that was the 2nd round.
It's worth a
what
shot.
Are you doing?
It's worth a shot.
And this dude, he's a cool guy. I'm not trying to get on him too much, but I'll get on him one more time. He took Julio Jones in the 6th round.
That's part of the fun of it, though, right? Giving each other a hard time.
Absolutely.
And also the venue, if you do it in person, it's way better than remote, We used to go to this old tavern on a small lake where I grew up south of Seattle called the Star Lake Inn. Like old school, like 1900, and the atmosphere alone was worth the price of admission,
Sounds like you had a little scenery growing up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I much prefer in-person drafts if I can. And a lot of mine are remote because I draft with people all throughout the country a lot of times. But it's definitely cool to still be in those home leagues, or like you said, the atmosphere, and able to kind of like it's more challenging to draft that way. You don't have like the computer with a list for it. You got to actually like go through it yourself and scratch the names. It's
until the pandemic, that was actually a rule for our league. You had to be there. And we have several people from outside of New Orleans live in Boston, Houston.
Yeah.
We got in Nashville. They got to come down. If you want to be in the league, got to come down.
Honestly, better than fantasy, no offense. I love the Eliminator League. That's my favorite thing I do every football season. 1 year, my friend at ESPN, old producer friend, it was $20. It was nothing. But there were a lot of entries, so the pool was pretty high. We got down to the last week of the season. 4 teams are left. And we all chickened out and said, let's split the pot. And I have no embarrassment for doing that. We were going to lose. The team we thought was going to win was going to lose. The guy that had the worst pick was going to win, but he didn't think that because he had the worst pick, right? There's just such a fun science. You got 3 games to go. All right, do I use Green Bay? I still got him. No, I'm gonna pick Chicago at Detroit. You know, like, oh my God.
Well, there's only, let's talk about that, because the week 1 of the NFL, there's only a couple of favorites of more than 7 points. The Saints, who we would need to get your opinion on, are 5.5-point favorites at Atlanta. I think they may be a popular eliminator pick because that is one of their weaker games on their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, that rivalry is so good. I'm good friends with Stan Barrett, Louisiana, New Orleans guy. He loves the battle with Atlanta. I mean, he just lives for putting them down, and they do the reverse if they have a good year. What did you say their line was?
It's 5.5. Yeah.
And it's at Atlanta?
At Atlanta. Oh, that's the only problem is you got to take a road team there.
It's much better to be at home. I know that much.
Stan Barrett was actually the first guest on my podcast. My podcast where I started last September.
Oh, he's a good one.
Stan came on.
We just traded notes. Eldridge Rakasner, former NBA.
That's right.
Former University of Washington. They were giving me tips. I found a great oyster place a block from my hotel. Last night I wanted to eat oysters and watch Serena Williams. So I asked the hotel, where's the closest place I can do those 2 things? Take a left 1 block away off of, I'll think of it. I'm at the W, whatever that street's called.
Canal Pointers.
Canal and what?
Canal or Pointers.
And there was this oyster place, said all kinds of oysters. I saw the TV.
Drago.
There it is.
Sadly, she lost, but
unfortunately, it was not.
She had an amazing career. It was great to watch her final match.
Good entertainment. Let's talk Saints, Kenny. What do you feel about the Saints? The Sean Payton era is over. The Drew Brees era is over. Where does this franchise go in your mind?
The one thing I do know about the NFL, because I don't make too many predictions, is you can be bad one year and win the Super Bowl the next. It's happened so many times,
It almost happened with Cincinnati last year.
Oh my goodness. I thought Cincinnati was winning that game. I lost money. I watched the game from here. We had a party here for Caesars. Who knows? I think a lot of it is the rhythm of the quarterback. You were talking about him earlier. If he gets comfortable, he's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential. Quarterback's hardest thing in the world to do. Maybe hitting a baseball's right in there with that. And I always defend the athlete. I always think it's funny when you hear talk radio and they're just killing somebody because he had a 2-interception game. It's like, dude, you try dragging Walton and Lanier down the court for 48 minutes, all right?
Just to make the reads without worrying about the monsters chasing you, that's hard enough.
I mean, that's why the old days, because Bill Walsh was such a genius and would teach, not that Joe Montana wasn't great, but he walked up to the line, saw what he saw, and kind of knew, oh, I'm probably going to do this. Taylor or Rice, whoever it was. The ones that get overwhelmed and see the rush, right? They don't excel the same way. But they got a shot to the playoffs, but everybody does. It all depends how they get out of the first quarter. People make too many judgments about September. I know that. You can be 1-3, you can be 2-2, and still be a really good team. So I'd give them patience.
All right. I don't think the Saints can start 1-3 and make the playoffs given their schedule. But I'm also not as extreme as a lot of the people around here who would fire Dennis Allen after a 1-3 start. So
yeah, the quick fires always get me too. Really? You went through all that, the draft, the training camp, and you give the guy 3 games or 5 games?
You're watching Bayou Bets on bet.NOLA.com. Zach Ewing, Jim Derry, Spencer the Guru here with Kenny Mayne from Caesars Sportsbook. We are at the new Caesars Sportsbook out inside Harrah's, New Orleans. Beautiful space. You just heard some Florida State fans chanting again. Getting ready for LSU, Florida State tomorrow afternoon. Also remind you, if you go to NOLA.com/Caesars, you can sign up for the Caesars Sportsbook mobile app and also get your first bet up to $1,250 risk-free. And that's a good way to go, honestly, looking at some of these lines. Sometimes the way you want to go is the mobile app.
You know what? That's a good attitude to have. If you know that you got that backup, take a little flyer on something, right? Instead of being conservative, why not make that be the one where you're going for the value?
All right. Before you leave, Kenny, I know you got to go soon, but I want to ask you, what do you think about the NFL's sense of humor that they put Denver playing Seattle in Seattle the first week of the season. I mean, come on.
It's pretty good.
You like that?
I wish I were there for that. I don't know if I'm making that game or not. Caesars, if you're listening, I still have a good story idea, so I'm ready to go if you want me to be there. I mean, that's what you're looking for, right?
Right.
I'm a huge Russell Wilson supporter for what he did for Seattle for all those years. I wish him well where he goes, but now he's on the other side, so I want to beat him. But I don't have any malice. The guy gave us 10 amazing years.
He did.
Pro Bowl 8 or 9 times.
That's right.
Should have won 2 Super Bowls. They should have faked it to Marshawn and rolled short side left.
They should have given Marshawn.
But they should not have done what they did.
That much is for sure. Yeah.
There's no guarantee.
That's the worst call in the history.
There's no guarantee that he was going to score. A lot of times, 1 yard, they dig in. They had their run stoppers in there. I would have faked it to him on the left, let Russell roll, throw it away, throw a touchdown, run it in. He still had a timeout. It was only 2nd down.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the karma payback for that Green Bay game where they had the replacement.
The fail
route.
Mary. The funny thing about that, for 10 years, we did these pretend football stories, right, for Countdown. And one of our go-tos was this fake Seattle Seahawks. He's a Korean guy who works at ESPN in the audio department. We gave him a name. We gave him a jersey number 129. And he was at that game. And the joke was that he was now going to try to be a referee because he was so upset with the officiating that had taken place. And then that happened on that night. Golden Tate, right?
Yeah, it was a Monday night. You can't,
That was wild.
you know, you want drama. We talk about
Fail
NFL
Mary.
drama. You had NFL drama that.
Well, I'll look forward to watching for the entertainment. I hope Seattle figures out a way to be any good this year. They're a question mark as well.
And they
It'll be
come to, and they
fantastic.
come to New Orleans in week 4 or 5.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kenny, you'll be in Champion Square tomorrow. Weather
Yes.
permitting, we'll be live there as well.
I stood in that rainstorm today. I didn't care. I was working out. I took a long walk with my brace, and it started raining, and then it really started raining.
It started New Orleans raining.
And I just walked right down the street. It was like a movie scene. I didn't care. I was
The only issue is the equipment. Otherwise, I'd sit there in the pouring rain
all right.
myself.
If it does rain, we'll figure out somewhere undercover. But I'll be there. There's a Champion Square. There's a Caesars booth. You can activate
Absolutely.
your account. And then we got a good football game at 5 o'clock local?
Yeah, we'll be on at 4 o'clock local. The game's at 6:30. So
Okay.
we'll be live tomorrow on these same channels. Kenny will be back with us. We'll also talk to beat writers from LSU and Florida State to get the lowdown on that one. Kenny, thanks for joining
Thanks for
us.
having me.
Thank
It was
you,
fun.
Kenny. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
Kenny.
Once again, you're watching Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com. We're going to be joined by Rob Walker here in a second.
That's what you're welcome.
And he's here. So we'll switch him out with Kenny and we'll get going. A reminder, you can use the promo code NOLAFULL. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars on your mobile device and get that app downloaded. Get your first bet free up to $1,250. Also reminding everybody, sign up for our newsletter. Every morning, 6 days a week, NOLA.com/Bayou Bets. And we'll send you everything we've got going on
You just put it up your shirt and leave that.
every morning in your inbox. NOLA.com/Bayou Bets. Lots of commotion here at the Caesars Sportsbook. Jim, it's now
What's going on in the App State game?
it is now 31
I
unanswered
am
points for
so
North Carolina.
thrilled that I forgot to put in my bet.
So I think I'm about drawing dead there. I am in good shape on Michigan -31. They're up 37-0.
What about Texas A&M?
Texas A&M looks like they're in a lightning delay. It's 17-0 at halftime still. So we're still sitting at halftime there. This is the most Iowa score of all time, by the way. Third quarter, Iowa 5,
Look.
South Dakota State 3.
I know this is a betting show, but I've got to bring up something that happened in high school football last night. Not with the game that I broadcasted, but there was a game, Pearl River and Pope John Paul II, where the score at one point was 6-4, okay? And the team that ended up winning 13-10, they ran 21 plays. The team that lost ran 72 plays.
Wow.
That doesn't happen. So it was a weird week one. Rod and I both were in the prep world for quite a while. So
There are some brilliant high school football statistics. Every Friday night, there's a crazy
Fantastic.
game somewhere. You can't bet on those. But
No, but you can have fun with it.
we do have Rod Walker here, Times-Picayune, NOLA.com, sports columnist. Rod, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me out.
We have to ask you your impression because this is the first time you've seen this space. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, when I was walking through the casino, I was asking, like, where's the sport? I didn't know where it was located. And she's like, just walk, you can't miss it. And
Follow
she
the
was
noise.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I could not miss it. I mean, you see this big giant TV screen with the game on.
Just follow
Pretty
the
impressive.
Seminole chant.
Yeah, that too. A lot of Florida State people here.
A lot of Florida State people here. My impression, Rod, and you've worked in this market for a long time now. This city was made for something like this. Sports fans, gambling, having fun, getting your drink on. It's just all a perfect fit.
Yeah, it's amazing that it took this long, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I grew up in Mississippi, and they ain't got a little gambling before Louisiana did. But yeah, it's incredible to see this here and just how it's taken off.
But you can't get your drink on in Jackson right now.
Right.
No, we're not even going to go there. We're not even going to go there.
Sorry, I had to.
Any college picks for us today? Because frankly, my 11 o'clock picks are a bomb. What have you got for me?
We can start locally and go with Tulane. I think they'll definitely cover tonight.
Okay, 28.5. I did see 3
That's a lot.
UMass fans earlier. I think I might have been
Really?
the only UMass fans in the city of New Orleans.
I wonder if they even knew UMass was playing a football game, if they just happened to be in New Orleans. But,
They thought John Calipari was coaching the
Right,
basketball
exactly.
team again, and maybe they were in town for the Final
Well,
Four.
the Final Four is in September now.
yeah. Tulane, but yeah, they've done really well over the years against non-conference, non-Power 5 teams, and I just think they'll overmatch UMass.
Right, we don't talk enough about Tulane, but I really think that this could be an interesting season for them. I think they have enough on offense. Their offensive line is better. You always worry about their wide receiving core and what they can do there, but I think they have enough offensive weapons to make some noise, and really, there are only a couple games where they can't win. I think that this could be maybe it's a 7 or 8 win season for Tulane.
Yeah, to me, I think you said 7 or 8. I think 8 is probably the ceiling for this team, because there are some teams that I don't think they really match up well with. We talk about teams like Houston,
Cincinnati, maybe.
Yeah, those teams. But I think it's a team that they should be a lot better than the 2-10 season they had last year. So I know you want to pick from like a more high-profile game, probably. So I think I'm picking Florida to beat Utah. I don't know why. I just kind of got a feeling that Billy Napier's going to get off to a good start there. And
You know why you're 2.5. You know why you're probably right?
It's dropping, yeah.
You're probably right because I like Utah, and I've been awful already in college football. So
That game at 6 o'clock on ESPN. As you can see, the line dropping down below that magic mark of a field goal. One of the great things, and we'll talk some NFL in a minute, Rod, but one of the great things about college football is here it is September the 3rd. Notre Dame plays Ohio State. I know they're going to a 12-team playoff in a couple of years, but even with a 12-team playoff, you lose that game, and you have no margin for error the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's obviously the game of the day. 2 teams ranked in the top 5, so I think Ohio State will win. I don't know if they'll cover, though. I just think that's a lot of points.
16 points.
Yeah, that's a lot of points, but I do think C.J. Stroud, he's my guy for the Heisman. I think he'll win the Heisman this year. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season. He had a phenomenal season last year, through over 4,000 yards, 44 touchdowns, only like 6 interceptions, I think. So he had a really good season. So I think Ohio State's going to be really, really good this year.
and then
I'd be shocked if they're not.
and then he'll go to the pros and be an Ohio State quarterback.
Listen, Justin Fields looked pretty damn good in the preseason. The problem is, Jim and I have a long-standing argument about Justin Fields. I think he's a good quarterback.
It's not just Justin Fields.
He's got no help.
It's not Justin Fields.
Yeah, the Bears' offensive line is horrendous. He's always running for his life. He's kind of like the new Russell Wilson in that regard, but we'll see if he's able to withstand that pressure. I'm not sure if he'll be able to, because he's also got a lack of receivers. At least Russ had good receivers. Fields in Chicago has no receivers and no offensive.
Talking to Tulane, he's got Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, Mooney's pretty good for fantasy, and Cole
He's a big guy,
Kmet, but I mean, they're not.
Cole Kmet's not a
DK
bad
Metcalf
tight
and Tyler Lockett.
I give Justin Fields grief, but because I give all Ohio State quarterbacks grief.
Speaking of quarterbacks, though, we asked Kenny about this, Rod. What do you make of Jameis Winston giving the pregame speech to Florida State tomorrow night?
Oh, I didn't realize is he doing that?
Yeah, apparently that he's going to be the pregame hype man for Florida State.
Well, we've seen Jameis Winston do some pregame speeches before. They can be pretty entertaining sometimes. But
get the W up, baby.
Yeah. But I saw the Florida State band is doing something.
Yeah, they're playing with the Saints
spelling it, and they're spelling Jameis' name.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I'm not sure if they're putting P.J. Williams on there too, but they are doing Jameis. So yeah, that'll be interesting, and it's going to be a really crazy atmosphere tomorrow. And I guess we're probably going to talk a little bit about that game. It'll be a crazy atmosphere in the Dome tomorrow night.
Let's talk a little bit about that because Rod will not be with us in our 4 o'clock show tomorrow. But LSU 3.5-point favorites now. It really, I mean, it's a crucial game for the Tigers. Their season could go one way or the other based on tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I don't know, have y'all made any picks on this game yet?
Not officially.
Not officially, yeah.
So should I wait for my pick or?
No. You're more than welcome, and please make your pick.
I'm picking Florida State outright.
All right.
And I think a lot of this is because
You're trying to make friends, aren't you?
I know, right? I looked around before I said that, but I just think like playing a game a week earlier, like I know it was just Duquesne who they played last week, but I just feel like that helps a lot. I think even last year UCLA had played Hawaii the week before they played LSU. I think just getting some of those first game kinks out really helps. And this is what, a 3-point spread, 3 points?
3.5 points now,
Yeah, and I just think it's going to be really close. I think if Florida State can get off to a good start, then they have a good shot at winning this game. I think both defensive lines are obviously the best, the strengths of both teams, but I just feel like Florida State having that game already is going to really help them out.
All right, so Rod Walker picks Florida State. We'll make our official picks on our 4 o'clock show tomorrow. But in the meantime, Rod, let's pivot a little bit and talk about the team that normally plays in the Dome, the New Orleans Saints. It was not a good week for the Saints. Trading Gardner Johnson and then having Marcus May arrested in the same week, that's quite a 1-2 punch there.
Yeah, this entire preseason we've raved about how good this secondary is, how deep they are. They take 2 big hits in back-to-back days. As you go back a week before that, Paulson Adebo sprained his ankle, and so this is a secondary that's going to be tested really early against the Falcons.
And we had an argument about that earlier about how much it would affect them. I mean, I think you're still generally optimistic about the season.
I am. I think if Marcus May happens to miss that first game, I think PJ is the guy that you can plug in, and I think they'll be fine. I think this team is better than the Falcons, so if there's a team you want to be playing in the first week, I think it's probably the Falcons, just because I think the Saints match up well with them anyway.
Rod, does it bother you at all, and Jeff Duncan and I talked about this yesterday at Data Day. Does it bother you at all that there are 27 members of the media, local media that were polled for his column, whether the Saints would go over their 8.5 wins or under 8.5 wins, and every single one of them, including you,
I went way over.
Picked over. Does that bother you that everyone likes the
It doesn't, man. I just think this is a team that went 9-8 last year, and on paper they're much better than that. And they caught a lot of bad breaks last year. You think about Hurricane Ida, COVID, Jameis going down. Like, you just got to feel like that's not going to happen this time. And I mean, if they went 9-8 last year, I just thought they'd go above that this time around. I'd be really shocked if they went below.
I don't disagree with you, obviously, because my pick came out yesterday, and I think I got them at 10-7. I know you got them higher than that, but it just, if I were someone from outside and someone that hasn't necessarily watched this team or followed them closely as I have, I think I would just stay away from betting it, because when everybody likes a team, it just scares the bejesus out of me, I guess.
It's not just Louisiana people. I mean, I've yet to hear anybody say the Saints are going to have a bad year.
Yeah, I think if you don't believe in this Saints team, based on what we've seen and the people they brought in, it's either you don't believe in Jameis Winston or you don't believe in Dennis Allen. To me, that's it. Like, I don't see any other reason you could think this team's going to not do well this year.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that it's not just those guys. I mean, but you talk about, it's impossible not to like them, really, if you're looking at what they have. They have Michael Thomas back in, and to have Chris Olave, and they have Jarvis Landry, and the receiving core and the weapons, and now it's looking more and more like Alvin Kamara is going to play throughout the season. I mean, you know, offensive line scares you a little bit.
Yeah.
It scares you that there's nothing behind James Hurst now at left tackle, and he's kind of banged up a little bit too, so that does worry you a little bit. But the defense, if they play anything like they played last year, it's unfair. Even with this tougher schedule, it's still hard to believe that this is not at least a 9-win team.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the offense and the pieces they added. I don't know if the offense has to be great. I think they will be really good. But if the defense is like they were last year, the offense doesn't have to score, but 21, 24 points, that's probably good enough to win a game, I think.
One thing.
I mean, they could win in Seattle last year when they scored, 10 or 13 or whatever?
Yeah.
One thing is for sure, the state of Louisiana being live in sports betting is making a huge difference in the amount of bets the Saints are getting, and Caesars has said that. And the lines moved down not just because of sharp money, but because of all these people like the people behind us who are taking them to win the Super Bowl. They've gone from 60 to 1 to 50 to 1 to 40 to 1. And so there's a lot of liability. We saw Ricky Jackson here yesterday. It was for charity, but bet $1,000 on the Saints to win the Super Bowl at 40 to 1. And so that's $40,000 for charity if they win it. Can we ask you for your Super Bowl pick, Rod?
Yeah, you can.
You can. Thank you for
we can
asking.
ask here. We got the odds up right here, but
I think I will. You just want the winner? Just who's going to win or who's going?
You can go whichever direction you want.
Don't go with y'all.
Yeah.
Don't say Buffalo.
Oh, is that? I was going with Buffalo. That's exactly what I was going with.
You can do whatever you want to do.
I think that's probably the safest pick. I'm really a Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's really good, and so Buffalo would definitely be my pick coming out of AFC. But AFC is really, really strong. I think Cincinnati's probably going to drop off a little bit. I just think, and it's just a gut feeling. It's probably not based off of anything, but I just think I don't know if they'll have the same success they had last year.
So your fellow columnist Jeff Duncan wrote a column this week saying he thought the Bucs, he was fading them all the way, under the win total, maybe missed the playoffs, all of that sort of stuff. What do we think about Tom Brady? He looked different in that last press conference, we got to say.
Yeah. I mean, I think Tom Brady's going to be Tom Brady, but you look at all the issues they've had up front. I mean, I think that's just going to make a big difference for this team. And I mean, I have the Saints winning the division. I think the Saints will be one of the top 2 teams in the NFC, which is, I know that's probably a little Ricky Jackson. But I think the Bucs will drop off a little bit this year.
Yeah, and that's been a common refrain, and we all know Tom Brady has lived off of doubters in his career, and you wouldn't think there'd be any left after 7 Super Bowls, but the guy is almost 46 years old. Like, at some point, doubt starts to creep in, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that it's hard to bet against Tom Brady. I mean,
right.
It's probably crazy to bet against Tom Brady, but I just feel like you look how the Saints have pretty much dominated him in the regular season, his first 2 years in Tampa Bay, and I think that'll continue this year because I think the Saints are better than the Bucs were.
The question is, would Spencer want Tom Brady on his fantasy team?
Yeah, I've had a few Tom Brady shares in fantasy. I mean, I still think he's going to be himself. I mean, he might fall off a little bit, but I'm definitely not going to overreact and say they're going to completely fall from grace and not win the division. I mean, I think the Saints have a shot at the division. Like we had talked in the last show, Jim. Like I'm off Carolina. Like, I don't think Carolina's going to do much. I don't trust Baker Mayfield, but I do think the Saints could sneak up on Tampa Bay because the fact is, the past couple of years, Saints have had Brady's number. Beat him 4 out of 5 times. The only time they didn't was the playoff game where they kept turning it over.
Yeah, and like Spencer said, I mean, you talk about things dropping off or you keep doubting things. You wonder if the Saints can continue to beat Tampa Bay like they have, but when you beat a team 5 regular season games in a row, at what point do you say this isn't real? I mean, they have their number. Dennis Allen knows, and look, nothing against Sean Payton. He's the greatest coach of this franchise's history by far. In my mind, I think he's probably eventually a Hall of Fame coach. But the Saints beat Tampa Bay because of Dennis Allen.
Yeah,
They
beat them 9-0, shut them out, which is unheard of to shut out a Tom Brady team. And this is a Saints team that, I mean, we know how bad Saints offense was.
Right.
They kicked 3 field goals that night. But so yeah, I agree. I think they have their number, and I just don't. The Saints are going to have to, they got to beat Atlanta, and they got to take care of the games you have to take care of.
Definitely got to beat Atlanta.
I think it's fair to say, not just Atlanta, but you look at the schedule in the middle part of the season. They've got to book to bank some wins in September, and they have to. They've got Atlanta, they got Carolina. The London game may be a toss-up. You got Seattle early in the season. You've got to bank some of those wins.
Yeah, when I was doing my predictions, I mean, it sort of banked on them starting off really, really strong. I mean, I had them like, I don't know if it was 6-0 or 5-1. I mean, I think they have to really start off strong. You can afford to lose to Tampa, I guess, but I mean, if you got them at home, so you kind of need to take care of that one too.
Yeah.
You start off 3-0. I mean, I think Saint can build some momentum.
You got the 3 weeks, but I hate the week 14 bye week. That should be outlawed. They should get rid of it. Week 14 bye week is ridiculous. You have a bye week in December. But anyway, the 3 weeks before that, you got the Rams, San Francisco, and Tampa Bay on a Monday night. To me,
That's the
even if you get to 7-3, which is I think that's probably the ceiling to get to 7-3, which is okay. You got to find a way to win one of those and be 8-5 when you go into your bye week.
No, I agree with you on that. That schedule really does, it gets tough in the middle, or down toward the end, yeah. Then you got those trips to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia later.
Exactly.
I mean, those aren't going to be easy either.
Can't overlook those guys either.
I mean, Philadelphia's took care of the Saints the last two years. So.
Then you're looking at Baltimore and Cleveland towards the end. I mean, it's Cleveland with Deshaun Watson.
With Deshaun Watson, right.
One more check of the college scores here on Bayou Bets as we have about 10 minutes left in our live show. Michigan thumping Colorado State 44-0. It's NC State 21-14 over East Carolina. I just love this. Iowa 5, South Dakota State 3 in the fourth quarter. I love this.
Somebody had a grand slam for Iowa.
Maryland's beating Buffalo 31-7. Boston College 21, Rutgers 15, and North Carolina still pouring it on 41-21 over App State. So
glad I forgot the bet.
Yeah, that's sometimes the ones you don't make are the best bets. Yeah, absolutely. Rod, before we go, the other New Orleans team, the Pelicans. I mean, this is an exciting time for New Orleans sports. It's a good time for the sportsbook to be opening. The Saints, everybody's optimistic about them. The Pelicans, I'm not sure anyone's ever been more optimistic about the Pelicans.
It's crazy, man. I mean, you look at what they did last season. Even though they lost in the first round to Phoenix, I mean, it took them to 6 games, and that was a good Phoenix team that I thought was going to win the whole thing. And
they pushed them.
Yeah, they pushed them to the limits. And without Zion, you add him to the mix. I mean, this is a team that had to go through the play-in tournament last year, but I think this is a team that can, I think they'd be one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the Western Conference this year. I just think Zion makes that much of a difference. I think people forget how good he was when he did play. I mean, obviously he hadn't played a lot, but when he plays, he's really, really good.
Don't you think that just the experience they had last year, and Zion they're a top 5 or 6 team, but I think they're even a top 5 or 6 team in the Western Conference with or without Zion because of what Willie was able to inject into this team and just the confidence that they gained over the last couple months. And C.J. McCollum just like a breath of fresh air into this team.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Western Conference, I think the Clippers are going to be better, so they'll kind of jump up a little bit. But Utah should fall off a little bit. So, I mean, just the way that you look at the teams, I think the Pelicans there's room for them to climb, I just think. And I agree with you. I mean, even without Zion, they could be a 6 or 7 team, but I think
as long as they beat the Lakers.
As long as they beat the Lakers, yeah. And I think they will. I mean, I think they owned LA last year. I mean,
they did.
7-1, I think, against
that was fun.
The Clippers and Lakers last year. So, yeah, they were really good.
Again, as bettors, we're inclined to be uncomfortable when everyone likes a team. But the Pelicans, I think we all agree, it's a disappointment if they don't get a top 6 seed and avoid that play-in.
No, I agree with you. I mean, this is a team, the expectations are really high. Willie Green's, it's his 2nd season. The key for him is going to be just get them guys to mesh together because Zion, CJ, and B.I. have not all played together. So they may have to figure out, how they fit together, but that shouldn't take long. I mean, it's only 5 guys on the court. So these guys they know how to play the game. So we don't know what role Zion's going to play, if he's going to be more of the point Zion role that he played under Van Gundy, or if he'll be more of a low post guy.
It's probably going to evolve, don't you think?
No, I think it will evolve, and I think that's going to be the whole key for this thing is to see how it evolves. But once they figure it out, I think this team's going to be really hard to beat.
Yeah, Glendola says hello from Louisville, by the way. Hello. Nice of you to join us. And so the Pelican season starts, I think, October the 19th in Brooklyn. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then they'll be home a couple of days after that. And you can come here to the Caesars Sportsbook at Harrah's. You can bet on them. In the meantime, lots of football to bet on. We got about 5 minutes left. What I want to do, everybody's best pick of the day. We need some winners because, quite frankly, I'm about to go 0-2 on the day. So I need winners. One winner the rest of the day in college football. Spencer, starting with you.
I'm taking Georgia to cover over Oregon. I said it Thursday. I'm sticking with it. I'm not worried that they lost a lot of starters. I'm thinking they'll come out strong today and cover that with ease because I don't trust Oregon. First-year head coach, Pac-12 team, man. Give me the SEC big dog. I'm going with the Bulldogs.
Kenny Mayne is going to fight you on that. We're going to have to bring him back here because he liked the Ducks. All right, Rod, I think you mentioned Florida might be your pick.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Florida outright. I just think, they're at home, and that's a long trip across the country for Utah, so I'm going to pick Florida at home.
Are we taking the money line there, getting some plus money?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and take the money line. No, nobody needs 2 points. They never
I can pick whatever I want. Is there an advantage to being right? I mean, do we get any?
We might let you wear one of those Caesars pair of glasses if you want.
Can I take the Ohio State money line?
No, listen. We're going to do like the free bet thing where it's like minus 200 odds is the maximum we can go here.
All right. Now, all kidding aside, I've said this all week. I think that Ohio State is going to blast Notre Dame out of the water. I think C.J. Stroud is. I agree with Rod. I think that he is we all like Bryce Young, and I think it's a two-man race, at least in the preseason. But I think Stroud is going to be the better quarterback, and I think Ohio State has a good chance to go undefeated in the regular season. And I think they have something to prove. I think they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder. And frankly, I think Notre Dame has lost a little bit too much, and I don't think they're in the same class as Ohio State. And I think Ohio State beats them big. I think they get a big lead early, and I think they win big.
I disagree with you on that one, but not strongly enough to bet it. So I'm going to take Notre Dame. But my pick of the day, I said it already, San Diego State minus 6.5 against Arizona. They're opening a new stadium in San Diego, so they're going to be motivated to put on a show. And frankly, Arizona was god-awful last year. So give me the Aztecs minus 6.5 in that one. Like to remind everybody, you can join the action. Good luck on your bets. If you haven't started, download the Caesars Sportsbook app. You can come out here and enjoy the atmosphere and still bet on the app. I mean, that's the cool thing about it. And we'd encourage you. We have our own promo code for you. Use promo code NOLAFULL or just go to NOLA.com/Caesars and it's automatically loaded up for you. Your first bet up to $1,250, risk-free. So if you take Jim's advice, you'll lose, but you get the free bet back. If you take my advice, you win, and that's, then that's all she wrote. You're up money. So that's about as good as it gets.
Or if you bet against both of us and call Devin Jackson, we'll give you his phone number.
Yeah, Devin Jackson.
You'll win and you won't have to worry about it.
I went against Devin. I picked App State. I feel like, although App State just scored a touchdown, so we still got to.
going to be right again.
We got a pulse, but Devin may be right again.
He's always right.
I'm going to be 0-2. So frankly, if you take my picks, maybe then you got to use that free bet. But the point is, it's a pretty good deal.
It's an excellent deal.
What we've got going on Bayou Bets, we're live every week on Mondays and Thursdays at 4 o'clock. This week, we're actually Tuesday and Thursday because of Labor Day, but we're also live tomorrow, 4 o'clock, weather permitting, Champion Square, outside the Caesars Superdome. It's going to be awesome. Kenny Mayne will join us, so will Scott Rabelais. We've also got a Florida State beat writer lined up to talk some Seminoles with us. So it's going to be a great show. We'll all make our picks for that one, LSU and Florida State. But until then, quick final thoughts, guys. Spencer.
Yeah, just really excited for all that upcoming action. We got the live action there behind us. We've got LSU tomorrow, the Saints next week. I'm really looking forward to the NFL. I mean, I like college football. I've been getting more into it this year. But, yeah, definitely looking forward to next week as we'll have both going on. And hopefully the Saints can perform up to expectations and not have that Atlanta game sneak up on them. Because it's not one to take for granted. I know Atlanta's down this year, but you don't want to go in there sleepwalking.
All right, Rod Walker, your final thought?
For me, I just want to remind everybody to take the over on the Saints. Don't hesitate just because everybody's doing it. I mean, that's the way to go. And I do want to go on record and say I'm picking Florida State to beat LSU tomorrow night.
All right, he's on the record. Sometimes the wisdom of the crowd is the right thing, though, with the Saints. Jim, your final thought?
I remind everyone to do the opposite of what Zach and I say to do in college football.
You'll make a lot of money.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I promise not to wear maroon tomorrow.
Don't do that. We still have Devin Jackson's cell phone number, so occasionally we get one right because he tells us what to pick. But other than that,
live Datitude on Fridays with Jeff Duncan. It's going to be a hoot going forward. Friday mornings at 9:15 on all your same bet.NOLA.com channel.
Absolutely, and also check us out 4 o'clock. Mondays and Thursdays. This week it's Tuesday and Thursday, but also our special edition tomorrow from the Superdome on these same channels for Bayou Bets. For Spencer the Guru and Jim Derry, our thanks to Rod Walker for stopping by. Thank you, Rod, and to Kenny Mayne from Caesars. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock, everybody. Good luck with your bets.